A few months ago, I uploaded a video explaining how this reality is very likely to be a simulation. Since then, I received a lot of messages from you where you describe all the unexplained events in your life that make you feel like this is simply an energy projection rather than stable reality. Ever since the internet was created, we all started publishing and exchanging our stories, and I decided that it's time to talk about what we call matrix glitches. These are temporal, self-correcting, supernatural disturbances of our reality defying all laws of physics and common sense. My life has been filled with them for as long as I can remember, and I'm going to describe what I have experienced and how entheogens can help us understand the meaning and the implications of these rifts in time and space continuum. If you've been watching 434 videos for a while, I want to thank you for your trust. I'm talking about a lot of unusual metaphysical aspects of our existence, and I realize that these videos can sometimes feel like I make things up. I can assure you that everything you hear from me is true based on my own experiences and my knowledge collected over the years. If you want to have direct access to me, or if you want to listen to my personal podcasts or take part in regular Q&A sessions, you can donate or regularly support this channel through methods listed on the screen and in the video description. Share this video with others to become the spiritual savior for those in need. These videos really help people. Thank you for your support and for helping me make this video. It all started early in my life when I was a child. I would go to bed and lay in darkness waiting to fall asleep, and then I would blink my eyes and suddenly it was morning. No sense of passing time, just a blink and it is the next day. I was so used to this that I thought for a long time that this is what human sleep looks like. It was only when I started talking to my parents about it and I realized that this is not normal, and later in life I learned that this is a well-known unexplained phenomena that many people experience. One of the first very strange matrix glitches I have a memory of is me being on a kindergarten trip and going to a magical island surrounded by a river next to an old cracked concrete dam. It's a very colorful and vivid memory of a weird moment in my childhood. I remember all children sharing packs of strange looking bubblegum, and we were running around the island all ecstatic. I remember talking about this memory later in life to some of the people who lived there, and they said that they didn't remember anything like that being there. It wasn't until I was a teenager when I started talking to my dad about this, and he said there's actually an old dam not far from the kindergarten I used to go to, and it turned out that it's the same place I had a memory of. The only difference was that there was no island behind it, but everything else was as I remember it, except in the place of the island was a river. And the strangest thing was that my dad said that he used to go and play there as a child, and he said that this river has always been there, and he also didn't know anything about an island. To make this story more interesting, this cracked dam is about 200 yards or meters away from my first UFO sighting that happened around the same time. I talked about it in detail in the Aliens vs. Machine Elves video. Matrix glitches are so weird that we dismiss them by convincing ourselves that it didn't happen or that we're simply going crazy. I remember one day when I was a bit older, accidentally dropping my house keys to the floor and seeing them fall under the armchair. When I reached underneath to grab them, they were gone. I was looking for them for a long time before I started moving furniture around the room, and I found nothing. 15 minutes later, after putting the furniture back in their places, I looked one more time and the key magically appeared underneath the armchair as if it had been there the whole time. I remember vividly realizing at that moment that our reality is not what we think it is. This one is very common, and about an hour ago I found a post on Reddit where someone described exactly the same story. Out of all the matrix glitches I experienced, one stands out because it was witnessed by the whole cabin crew of a commercial plane. A few years ago I went to France, and after landing in Paris at the Charles de Gaulle airport, I was about to leave the plane and go to the terminal when I realized that my passport's gone. I started looking for it around my seat, on the floor, and in my pockets, and I couldn't find it anywhere. It is very unusual for me to lose anything, and I spent something like 10 minutes looking over and over in the same places. During that time, everybody had left the plane and it was just me and the cabin crew inside. Eventually, one of the flight attendants, seeing me go through my pockets again, came over and asked what is going on, and I said, I cannot find my passport. She said, well, let us help you look for it, but first, can you search all your pockets again? So I was standing in front of her as she was looking at me putting my hands in and out of my pockets, and the passport was not in any of them. Passport is not a small item to lose in your pockets. There were 4 cabin crew members all involved in looking for my passport, and after additional 5 minutes I said, okay, I'll just go to the terminal and I will deal with immigration. And as I said this, I put my hand in one of the pockets and the passport was there. They had made me go through my pockets twice and we all looked at each other really confused. No one said a word and I just left the plane. That wasn't the only aviation-related matrix glitch. Another one happened 2 years ago when I was driving with my brother next to an airport and we suddenly saw a plane frozen mid-air. We stopped the car to look at it and it was just hanging there above our heads. We waited for a moment and we just drove away completely confused, looking for a logical explanation for this. When I went back home and looked it up, I learned that this is a very common phenomenon that people see very often. In fact, some people record planes going backwards, changing shapes, flickering, or even disappearing. YouTube is also filled with videos of people and animals frozen as if someone paused their movement and then after a while they continue moving as if nothing happened. One of the very common matrix glitches is seeing the same person many times throughout the day. This is what happens to me a lot, and it feels like this simulation is sometimes running out of extras projecting life around us and reuses the same characters. Sometimes I will see a person walking away from me only to see them seconds later coming towards me from the opposite direction, and this has no logical explanation. Some of these glitches are so common that social media outlets write articles filled with pictures and videos showing, for example, 3 completely random people wearing the same clothes, having the same bags and the same unique hairdo sitting next to each other on the bus or the subway. Think about the mathematical odds of this. Of course, one of the best examples of matrix glitches are déjà vus of all types. Science tries to explain it away by saying that it's a momentary discrepancy in processing speed of visual signal in the brain. But this doesn't explain how we can recall and predict the whole event as soon as it starts. Synchronicity is also an incredible matrix glitch, and you'll find 3 videos on this channel explaining the nature of this phenomenon. It's the one that started this channel and is the one that I dedicated most time to. One of the best matrix glitches that deserves its own video is something called the Mandela Effect, and this is when our memories drastically differ from things or events that we have a current record of. This could be anything from hearing someone say something only a few seconds later to learn that they never said it and having it confirmed by other people taking part in the conversation, to you remembering historical events or existence of whole countries that are now completely different to what you remember. The Mandela Effect is one of those glitches that is very well documented, as thousands and even millions of people sometimes remember one event differently than what our reality tells us. I still have in my kitchen a tiny egg pot that after 14 years overnight changed shape and graphics, and no one in my house except me has any other memories of this, and it seems in that respect I'm the only one whose reality has changed. And if it wasn't for all the other experiences, it's very easy to think that you're losing your mind in moments like this. The most intense matrix glitches that people experience are fatal accidents that they take part in. This happens when people driving on the road suddenly crash head-on with another car, and at the moment as this is about to happen, or as it happens, the whole reality resets and they find themselves back on the road a few seconds or minutes before or after the accident, and it actually never happens. They even get to see the car that crashed into them driving by in a different lane. Sometimes these events are accompanied by a lot of missing time after an event like this, which is actually something that all of us probably have memories of. It could be a few minutes or a few hours, but one of really strange matrix glitches that happened to me was missing a whole day. I remember when I went from Tuesday to Thursday, skipping Wednesday and having no memory of it, and no one could explain to me how I got to this day of the week. When it happens once, you blame yourself, but once you start reading other people's testimonies of the same happening to them on a regular basis, you realize that something is not right with our reality. I believe that what we're experiencing is very likely to be the story told in the Matrix movie. And for me, that was confirmed one night as I was laying in bed and started a very deep meditation that led to my room and all the objects in it turning into energy. It looked as if I had been suddenly exposed to the source code of this reality, and I described it in detail in the Meditation Explained video. There's one more reality glitch that happens sometimes when I lay in my bed. Out of nowhere, I will hear an industrial alarm. Recently, after one of those alarms, I heard 2 people in the darkness over my head saying, "He's waking up, quiet, stop talking." And then I was listening to a man and a woman whispering something to each other about medical stuff before their voices disappeared. This industrial alarm very often wakes me up in the middle of the night, and it comes out of nowhere and I have no idea what it is. Sometimes I hear explosions, and I even talked to a doctor about this, and he just ignored it by saying that these are auditory hallucinations, but both the explosion and the alarm are very distinct and characteristic sounds and cannot be hallucinations. Every time it sounds the same, and it feels like something that is coming from outside of this reality. There's a theory about very serious matrix glitch that apparently we all experienced a few years ago. We all remember the prediction of global consciousness shift in 2012 that was supposed to be accompanied by cataclysmic events, and as you know, nothing ever happened. According to some high-ranked officials in the shadow government, apparently we were saved from the catastrophe by switching to a different timeline, and everything that was predicted actually happened, but we were saved from the consequences of it by jumping dimensions. It's an interesting theory, and some people claim to actually have proof, and given everything that I've seen that is wrong with this reality, I wouldn't be surprised if that was all actually true. There's one more matrix glitch that is universally experienced by almost everyone I talk to, and I call it soft reset matrix glitch. The way it works is that sometimes you'll be walking down the street and you realize that suddenly you feel as if you have just woken up. Your senses feel very fresh, memories from a few seconds ago feel like it all had happened yesterday, and you suddenly need to recall what it is that you're doing in that place. This is accompanied or preceded by a temporary disturbance in hearing or vision. Sometimes people will even experience a moment of complete darkness as if all of the reality disappeared for a second, and again, this is shared sometimes by many people at the same time. If you go to YouTube or Reddit, you will find thousands of reports of these incidents, and we could dismiss them as temporary consciousness incapacity or some other form of sensual disturbance, but the problem is that the same glitches happen to a huge number of people. And that's what makes these matrix glitches so interesting. These experiences can be shared by many people at the same time. It is something that definitely cannot be explained with a simple theory of subjective hallucinations. There's a reason why I'm telling you all of this. The entities I communicate with in psychedelic states for years have been showing and telling me that what we experience is a simulation. In the 434 simulation video, I described my story about seeing two entities standing next to my simulation tank trying to communicate with me, banging on the walls. And if you'd like to hear the story, watch the simulation video. You can tap or click the link in the right upper corner, or you can go to the video description. That is why mind-expanding substances like mushrooms allow you to get closer to the programming language of the simulation and let you go outside of the projection. They are the coding tools to those who are interested in understanding their lives by looking at the blueprints of the mechanisms of the simulation, and they can allow you to reverse engineer it to implement the functioning of the framework into your life. Psychedelics are an incredible aid when it comes to exposing the unstable nature of this simulation. One of the best examples I have is something I talked about here many times before. On my heroic dose in August 2015, I got stuck in 13 minutes past 6 in the afternoon, and I remember walking around the house doing chores that normally take minutes, trying to kill time on a horrible mushroom trip, only to realize that time doesn't flow anymore. I was so frightened that I laid down, closed my eyes, and had a billion thoughts, traveled to other dimensions, and experienced something what felt like 2 weeks, only to wake up and realize that it's still 6:13 p.m. This is a very common experience that many psychonauts go through on psychoactive substances. And if you're looking for any matrix glitches on purpose, taking psychedelics will definitely help you find them. Clearly, this is not a well-designed simulation we're in. And if you pay close attention to it, you will notice how buggy it is. In fact, to those who pay attention to synchronicities, reality shifts, law of attraction, and all supernatural phenomena, it will be difficult to treat this simulation seriously, as it quickly becomes obvious that there is a higher purpose to all of this. The bigger and more complex the program is, the more flawed it will be. And since the most affected element by simulation glitches is matter, it would mean that this part of the simulation was given the least attention at the design stage, and that's a significant clue for the importance of the emotional sphere of our lives. This is a proof that it's not material goods and possessions that are the key to successfully completing our existence in this reality, but it is who we are, what we do for ourselves and others, and it is the harmony created by values of love, joy, and hope. After many years of discussions with the psychedelic entities, I still do not understand the complex nature of this simulation. The question we should all be asking is, what's the source of this projection? If it's external, then it means that we need to learn its rules so that we can thrive in it, but if it's internal, it would indicate that we're the source of this simulation, and it means that our reality is definable. It means that we all possess reality manifesting abilities, and how we feel and what emotional states we generate defines our existence here. I was told that once we discover that this is a simulation, we should move on and not pay too much attention to it and its imperfections. We should go with whatever the program is, as we're here for a reason, and our focus should be discovering what our purpose is, rather than disturbing the program by trying to understand the source code. That's not why we're here. We're supposed to take part in the experience and not try to disrupt it. In one of my previous videos, I also talked about how the concept of time is an earthly physical idea, and if you realize that both time and matter are only supporting elements of this existence and not its foundation, you'll be able to shift your focus to the energy that since the beginning of our history has been described by all earthly religions as the creative force behind our lives. The fact that these glitches are short-lived faults in the system and have a self-correcting nature points to the obvious conclusion that there is something much bigger in control of it. Also, the fact that some of these glitches are used to correct devastating effects of destructive events shows that they are a tool controlled by someone or something, and they are a part of something much more important. Your ability to notice, acknowledge, and act on the disruptions and functioning of the matrix indicate that you are already one with the energy. Those who have mastered the rules governing this reality know that the structure of our existence works on an emotional level, and that emotions are responsible for shaping the reality. What you feel now defines your present moment and effectively your life. Since matter is programmable and not the constant, it means that what's happening inside of your head is the processing unit for everything around you. That will mean that you can shape your environment with manifesting abilities. It also means that you experiencing the reality is not taking place outside of your body, but is deeply rooted in your sense of harmony with yourself and the reality generating energy that flows through everything and everyone. The simulation around you is just a temporary framework that is supposed to help you discover your true potential, and it should help you understand that you are the creator of your earthly existence. Thank you for watching. Please watch more of the 434 videos to understand this concept better. On your way out, please support this channel. You can use the methods listed on the screen and in the video description. Visit the websites of the musician and graphic designer I featured in this video. Remember about b434.com and join 434 social media on YouTube, Facebook, BitChute, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and VK. Talk to each other on Discord, Reddit, and Telegram. All links in the video description.